There are two kinds of NFL teams in late October. The ones that are still in the hunt, or at least pretending to be, and the ones quietly texting every GM in the league about who they can move before the deadline. So, with the November 4th trade deadline rapidly approaching, NFL general managers and fans alike are quickly becoming obsessed with which stars are going to be on the move. The deadline always brings drama, but 2025 feels particularly volatile, with a few expected contenders with big names on their rosters stumbling mightily out the gate this year. The legitimate contenders, meanwhile, are on the hunt for difference makers. You know, the kind of players who can swing playoff games and get their teams over the hump. So, let's take a look around the NFL landscape and pick out 10 guys that we expect to be wearing new uniforms once the deadline passes. Chris Olave, WR, New Orleans Saints. If there is one name that perfectly fits the bill for a young star stuck in a bad situation, it's Chris Olave. New Orleans hired Kellen Moore to modernize the offense, but as any Saints fan will tell you, it has been anything but bad. The Saints are 1-6. Their quarterback situation is a disaster. Spencer Rattler looks lost, and the only thing consistent about the passing game is how inconsistent it is. Olave, though, well, when he's healthy, he is as smooth as it gets. The Ohio State product is a strong route runner. He has solid hands and knows how to create separation. He is everything that you want in a fringe wide receiver one. The problem is, the Saints aren't remotely close to contending, and Moore's system has not elevated the rest of that roster. Front offices around the league know it, and the ones in need of a little extra firepower for a playoff push are a-callin'. While the Saints insist that they're not shopping him, let's be honest, every losing GM listens when the offers come in. Hey, credit to Olave, he hasn't been outspoken about wanting out, but at this point, you can't help but assume that he would like to start playing some meaningful football somewhere else. Arden Key, Edge, Tennessee Titans. Every year, there's a veteran pass rusher who quietly becomes the missing puzzle piece for a contender. And this year, it might be Arden Key. It's almost poetic that the Titans fired Mike Vrabel, said they wanted to go younger, and now it has turned into such a dumpster fire that they might be pushed into moving on from one of his best finds, who is still just 29. He's got 1.5 sacks so far this season and 12.5 over the last 2 years, despite playing for an otherwise underwhelming defense. He is exactly the kind of high-powered potential pass rusher contenders crave, thinking that he can contribute right away, and will likely raise his level in a competent system. And with Key in the final year of his contract and Tennessee sitting at 1-6, clearly in transition, and expected to be selling to stack draft capital, well, Key is a likely trade candidate. Titans did just lose rookie rusher Oluwafemi Oladejo to a fractured leg, which could make them hesitate from a depth perspective. But if a contender reaches out, then hey, there is no real reason that Key shouldn't be on the block. If he lands on a team like the Cowboys, Texans, or Lions, well, don't be surprised when he shows up in a playoff game, making that 1/3 and 8 stop that swings momentum. Tennessee may not think that he's a part of their future due to the seemingly eternal time horizon, but somebody else's defense could definitely use him right now. Jerome Ford, RB, Cleveland Browns. The Browns have been phasing in their youth movement, and though he's only 26, it looks like Jerome Ford has been caught in the crosshairs. He's been productive for Cleveland since cracking the rotation with over 1,400 career rushing yards and 12 total touchdowns, plus the ability to catch the ball out the backfield. But rookie Quinshon Judkins is clearly the future here. And with Ford still on his rookie deal through 2026, well, he's a perfect trade chip. Ford's skill set could really shine in a spread system. It's hard not to picture him as a dangerous weapon for a team like Kansas City that could use reinforcements at the running back position. His film shows decisive one-cut ability, underrated power through contact, and enough speed to rip off explosive gains. On an expiring contract, Ford's affordable and expendable for the Browns. Don't be shocked to see them try and stack a couple of late-round picks by shipping him out to a contender. Jaylen Waddle, WR, Miami Dolphins. On paper, Jaylen Waddle is too good to trade. In practice, well, let's not act like anyone is untradeable these days. I mean, just think about some of the stars we've seen moved around in recent years. Plus, Miami is in, well, complete freefall at the moment, and it's high time that they make some sort of move. Think about it. The Dolphins are 1-6, and for all the previous talk about Mike McDaniel's offensive genius, the scheme has lost its identity entirely. Tyreek's hurt. Tua has regressed beyond recognition. The spacing that made their unit dangerous is long gone. And truthfully, it looks like the entire operation is starting to crumble in South Beach. The buzz amongst NFL analysts is that Miami shouldn't move him. But, those conversations don't happen unless there's smoke. And with McDaniel firmly on the hot seat, who's to say that Miami doesn't blow the whole thing up? The Dolphins are trying to hold firm, but if they keep losing, the pressure will continue to mount. And we've seen it 100 times now. One contender dials the right number, offers a first and change, and boom, suddenly a no becomes a maybe. That may seem like a high asking price given his mediocre production, but keep in mind, he is stuck in a very bad situation. He has all the talent needed to jump onto a well-built roster and make a huge difference as a deep threat. Alontae Taylor, CB, New Orleans Saints. While Alontae Taylor is one of the few bright spots on the Saints roster that is circling the drain at 1-6, he may be one of the names that we see printed onto a new jersey within the next couple of weeks. The Saints don't want to trade him, but when you're staring down a lost season, a shrinking cap, and a roster that's due for an overhaul, sometimes you gotta rip the band-aid off. The former second-round pick has grown into a confident, physical corner with legit range and press instincts. And at just 25, he's only getting better. Plus, he can play both on the perimeter and in the slot very comfortably. So, while it would hurt to lose him, the other side of that coin is that the reality of trading Taylor would also bring in some pretty legit draft capital. There are a few teams looking for a playoff-ready corner. I mean, think about the Lions, Cowboys, or Bills. The rumor is that all three have been poking around. So, if New Orleans gets the right trade package, we might end up seeing the talented young corner shipped out of the Big Easy. Breece Hall, RB, New York Jets. There are bad NFL teams, and then we have the 2025 New York Jets. At 0-7, they are not just losing, they are unraveling in a truly humiliating fashion. Ownership's hiding, the coaching staff's out of answers, and the locker room feels like it's imploding. Somewhere in the middle of all that storm sits Breece Hall, quietly racking up yards on a team that can't stay on the field long enough for them to matter. Hall is averaging over 4.5 yards per carry behind an offensive line that looks like it was assembled at the scrapyard. He's explosive, decisive, and, unfortunately, wasting his prime years on a team that doesn't have a plan. NFL execs are calling, and they should be. Hall's on a relatively cheap rookie contract. He can catch, run, and block just enough to stay on the field for 3 whole downs. For the Jets, it's less about whether they want to trade him, it's whether they're ready to admit that they're starting over. The team needs picks, depth, and quite frankly, an exorcism. Moving Hall could be the first sign that New York finally understands what everyone else already sees. It's time for a fire sale, not another retool, even with a new head coach in Aaron Glenn in town. Michael Carter II, CB, New York Jets. The Jets defense hasn't been as bad as the offense this season, but man, at this point, everyone not named Sauce Gardner should be on the block. One name that continues to pop up is Michael Carter II. He's a steady, disciplined slot corner and one of the more well-established guys on this unit. And with New York at the point that they really need to liquidate all their assets to stack draft capital, he's a prime candidate to get dealt. Carter is returning from concussion protocol, and in his absence, rookie Jarvis Brownlee Jr. has stepped in and looked good enough to rationalize dealing a talented 26-year-old corner, especially considering the former 5th-round pick would make for an affordable addition. I mean, he's under contract through 2025, thus making him a logical addition for a playoff team. He's not going to be a game breaker, but you know, he is reliable. He's very sticky in coverage, and he is fearless when breaking down ball carriers. That is exactly the kind of midseason pickup that stabilizes a contender's secondary. Jakobi Meyers, WR, Las Vegas Raiders. The sad thing is that there was actually hope in Las Vegas coming into the season with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith coming to town. But unfortunately, the whole thing has been a disaster from the start. Las Vegas is stuck at the bottom of the AFC West, and the stability and culture that Carroll was expected to bring to town has been noticeably absent. Part of the problem is that the offensive line that he inherited can't seem to hold protection for more than 2 seconds, which has neutered the passing attack and sent Geno into a tailspin. That's why Meyers is one of the more realistic names to move before the deadline. He's under contract on a reasonable number, and his skill set fits almost any contender that values timing routes and trust throws. Oh, and you know, he's publicly stated that he is for sure wanting to be traded, which, you know, attitude-wise is probably the last thing that you need when you're trying to rebuild a locker room and a roster. When you look at this one at face value, it just makes sense. Vegas needs picks, and Meyers wants out. and a contender like Green Bay could definitely use a reliable target to mix into their offense as they try to make a run at the Super Bowl. Germaine Johnson, edge, New York Jets. The fact that there are legitimate discussions about trading a pass rusher as talented and affordable as Jermaine Johnson is a telling proof point of what a disaster 2025 has been in New York. I mean, Johnson is not the problem. Far from it. He's a first-round pick with legit edge traits sitting on a rookie deal through 2026, and he's producing despite opposing teams not needing to drop back and pass a whole lot, with most games in hand by the half. And yet, here he is, doing his job. 2.5 sacks, steady pressure numbers, and plenty of strong tape to entice suitors. A team that knows how to rotate rushers and scheme around strengths would really benefit from a young, coachable, and affordable addition like Johnson. That's why contenders like Detroit and Jacksonville are circling. As much as New York might want to keep him around, the reality is that they're heading towards a full teardown and should be looking to stockpile as many assets as possible. And Johnson should definitely warrant a nice return. Mark Andrews, TE, Baltimore Ravens. You know things have gone sideways in Baltimore when even Mark Andrews might be on the move. The Ravens are 1-5, sitting in the basement of the AFC North, and for the first time in a literal decade, they look like they might actually be sellers at the deadline. The defense has become super inconsistent, but the offense, which has been reliable as it gets during the Lamar Jackson era, looks completely lost out there. Some of that should fix itself once Jackson gets back into the lineup, but man, the Ravens are running out of time to get themselves back in the playoff race. With 1 or 2 more losses, it's almost impossible. So, why not try and flip Andrews, who is in the last year of his deal, for some extra draft capital to fill some of the other holes on the roster heading into next year at a lower price point. They have a decent option behind him in Isaiah Likely, and the truth of the matter is, Andrews is not the same threat that he was a couple of years ago. Now, that isn't to say that a contender, one that's actually contending, kind of like the Ravens were supposed to do, wouldn't send a 3rd or 4th rounder to the Charm City for him. Give him a couple of weeks to get fully healthy and acclimated to a new offense, and hey, who knows? You might be able to find some magic for them down the stretch. Trading him would sting for Baltimore. He's been the emotional heartbeat of Baltimore's offense, and Lamar's go-to guy since 2018. But this is the reality of the NFL. Loyalty almost always has an expiration date. But hey, which NFL stars do you think will be traded by their teams before the deadline? Who do you think's going to be held on to? Who do you think we're right on here? Who do you think we're wrong about? Was there anything that we may have missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, then clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.